Hello everyone, and welcome back to Days Out. Now so far, I've spent quite a lot of time in the north of England, but today we're going to the other end of the country, at the South Devon. The South Devon runs for 7 miles through the Dart Valley from Buckfastleigh to Totnes. The first proposal of the railway came in 1848, but due to an economic crash never materialised. The scheme was later revived by the South Devon Railway from a junction at Totnes. Opened in 1872 and constructed to broad gauge, the branch became part of the GWR in 1876. In later years, the whole line was converted to standard gauge. Passenger services ceased in 1957, with freight lasting until 1962. In 1965, preservationists attempted to save the Kingsbridge branch, but the track was lifted too quickly, so they moved to Totnes. A light railway order was granted in 1966, with reopening taking place on the 5th of April 1969 by one Dr. Richard Beeching. The branch's original terminus was at Ashburton, which was also the terminus of the preserved line until 1971. In that year, road improvements were made to the A38 and the railway was lost. Today, Ashburton is now in use as a garage. One of the first arrivals was GWR 2251 number 3205 from 1946. She had a brief spell on the Somerset and Dorset following the Western Region's takeover in 1958. Coming to the railway in 1965, she later moved to the Severn Valley. Known as the Dart Valley Railway, the company acquired the Kingswear branch in 1973. It continued to run both lines until 1989, when the main operation was switched to Kingswear. However, 1991 saw the lease taken over and the line renamed the South Devon. Since then, the railway has expanded, including the construction of an engineering works at Buckfastleigh. Buckfastleigh is the railway's headquarters. Featuring a single platform, a camping coach was based here from 1956 to 61. A miniature railway opened in 1977 to 10¼ inch gauge, but was re-gauged to 7¼ inches in 1979. Also at Buckfastleigh is a small museum, housed in the goods shed. Inside is Peckett M5 class Ashley from 1942. Working at Exeter Gas Works, she came to the South Devon in 1971 and named after its first permanent way inspector. This coach was built for the Monmouth Railway in 1848. Withdrawn in 1878, it was preserved in 1978. Outside is Lady Angela, an R2 class Peckett from 1926. Working for Gypsum Mine Limited in Nottinghamshire, she was withdrawn in 1970. First going to the battlefield line. 6400, number 6412, is unusual in that she opened 2 preserved railways. The first was the Dart Valley in 1969, followed by the West Somerset in 1976. Whilst on the West Somerset, she was used in the children's TV series Flockton Flyer. Hall, number 4920 Dumbleton Hall, was constructed in 1929 and withdrawn in 1965. Leaving Barry in 1974, she steamed in 1988, and being a charity, her owners were influential in the South Devon gaining their independence. However, the locomotive has since been shipped to Japan in the guise of Hogwarts Castle. Over in the yard is D2246, a Class 04 from 1956, which spent most of its life in Leeds. Sold to the NCB in 1968, she was first preserved at Meadow Hall in Sheffield and later moved to Elsecar, coming to the South Devon in 2001. D3721 is a Class 09 from 1959. The Class 09s were allocated to the southern region, and D3721 was withdrawn in 2004 as number 09010. She came to the South Devon in 2010. Class 25, number D7535, was outshot from Derby in 1965. Working in the Nottingham area, she came to the South Devon from Kingswear in 2018. Class 33, number D6501 Sea King, dates from 1959. First allocated to Hither Green, she finished her days working for Network South East and Rail Freight. Withdrawn in 1997, she's been based at Crewe and Barrow Hill. 2745 was outshopped by the Yorkshire Engine Company in 1960. Fitted with a Rolls-Royce engine and British Thomson Houston transmission, the locomotive worked for the NCB. W55000 was the first of the Class 122 rail cars, built by the Birmingham Carriage and Wagon Company in 1958. Working in the South West and the Midlands, it was withdrawn in 1993. The workshop is home to South Devon Engineering. Founded in 2008, the company undertakes a variety of services, including boiler work, carriage repairs and tyre pressing using a 700-ton press. Outside the works was GWR 1366, number 1369 of 1934, and Carnarvon, a Kitson 060 saddle tank built for Stewarts and Lloyds, again in 1934. In service on this day were two trains, the first headed by 4575, number 5526 from 1928. Working in the southwest, she was withdrawn in 1962. Leaving Barry in 1985, part of her restoration was carried out at Swindon. She was hauling a 1930s set, consisting of two colic coaches and a milk tanker. The GWR built special coaches known as B-sets for their branch lines, whilst milk was a regular traffic flow across the southwest. 6400, number 6430, was acquired directly from BR in 1964 after ending her days on the Yeovil auto trains. Intended for spares for numbers 6412 and 35, she was restored at Llangollen, returning to service in 2003. She was handling an auto train, once a common sight on GWR branches. They made ideal branch trains, as there was no need to run round, and GWR practice set a maximum of 4 coaches, 2 at each end of the locomotive. Auto trains have their origins in Gloucestershire's Golden Valley. This valley had various industries, and by the Edwardian era, plans were made to connect them using an electric tramway. So, to counteract this, Churchwood drew up plans for a fleet of steam rail motors in 1903. The first services ran from Chalford to Stonehouse and later extended to Gloucester. 7 new halts opened, with trailers being added to meet demand. One problem with the rail motors was dirt getting inside the carriage from the driving compartment. Their replacement, the auto train, however, had a locomotive instead, with control between it and the coach through a series of links. The first locomotives to be converted for auto train use were the Armstrong 517s, and the system was later applied to panniers and prairies, including classes 4575, 54 and 6400. But in 1932, a new purpose-built class, the 1400s, appeared, being based on the 517s but with larger wheels. So successful was the auto train concept that it was adopted by other members of the Big Four and British Railways and became something of a catalyst for future generations of DMUs. The last auto trains in the Golden Valley ran in October 1964. Leaving Buckfastleigh, the railway follows the course of the River Dart. Staverton is the only intermediate station on the line. During BR days, it featured in 2 films, Guilt in My Shadow in 1950 and Where There's a Will in 1955. Between Staverton and Totnes is the small Nappers Halt. Opened in 1999, the halt is only used by auto trains, being accessed via steps on the coaches. Totnes Riverside consists of a single platform, whilst the station building came from Toller on the Bridport branch near Weymouth. From 1985 to 88, the station was not in use, as the South Devon was granted permission to access the mainline station by BR. Until 1993, rail passengers had to catch a bus to Buckfastleigh to travel on the South Devon. This was resolved by this footbridge, which also gave passengers a way of walking into the town itself. Totnes Main Line Station opened on the 20th of July 1847 and was the terminus of the South Devon until the extension to Plymouth in 1848. At one time, Totnes had a train shed, engine shed, goods yard and a branch to the quay. Damaged in 1942, the main buildings were destroyed in 1962. The majority of goods traffic ceased in 1965. With coal lasting until 1967, whilst milk traffic ended in 1980. The first signal box at Totnes was installed in 1894, but the current example dates from 1923. From 1973 to 87, it was used as a fringe box for Plymouth and is now Grade 2 listed. The new station buildings date from 1983, whilst the footbridge was replaced in 1987. After being hit by a crane, this too was replaced in 2019. Opposite the station is the pump house, part of Brunel's atmospheric railway. To maintain a constant vacuum, these pump houses were set at regular intervals. Brunel was inspired by a similar system used on the Kingston and Dalkey Railway near Dublin. He thought it would tackle the problem of the steep gradients in South Devon, and the first train ran on the 16th of August 1847. Pressure was contained in a 15-inch pipe with a slit covered by a leather seal. Trains were controlled by a piston inside the pipe with the pumping houses every 3 miles. The system was not a success, needing constant maintenance. The vacuum took longer to exhaust, whilst the pipe suffered from cracks during the winter. Within the first 6 months, the South Devon lost £2,500, converting the system to locomotive haulage in September 1848. Returning to the museum at Buckfastleigh, we have Tiny, the only surviving locomotive from the broad gauge era, being built for the South Devon in 1868. Withdrawn in 1876, she became a stationary engine at Newton Abbot Works until 1927, when she was displayed at Newton Abbot Station until 1980. So that was a visit to the South Devon Railway. Hope you've all enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and feel free to follow me on Instagram, link down below in the description. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all on the next day out. Bye!